good morning or good evening or good night, whatever whatever it may be, wherever you are in the world. Probably good evening for most people, I think. Or good evening, good night, yeah. All right, good luck with studying. That was short. Oh, can you folks hear me? Yes, okay. Okay, good. I saw my sound was muted right before I started this, but I fixed that, so it should be all good. So, how's everyone been the past 2 weeks? I know I'm always saying like maybe I'll do, maybe I'll get back to once a week, but last week was Thanksgiving, the Thanksgiving holiday here in the U.S. So I was actually flying to my brother's place in Chicago and doing a bunch of stuff, so wouldn't have been able to stream anyway. Um, so I did a little bit more eating and a little bit less working than normal this week, but still got a lot done. So thank you. So, oh yeah, breaks are definitely good, especially when they involve large amounts of food. Um, but now it definitely feels Christmassy here in the U.S. at least. So we have the Thanksgiving holiday, which is right at the end of November, and then basically like right after that's over, then everything feels like Christmassy. You see Santa Claus everywhere and stuff like that. So it's very it's suddenly in Santa Clausy mode, Christmas mode. And of course, I remember to enable Santa Claus, the great yearly tradition. Santa is back on the store until after Christmas. Sometimes I'm bad, especially with because right now there's only like Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. Those are like the two big characters that I have to remember to like turn them on. Santa is at least a little better, but like the Easter holiday moves around every year, so I forget sometimes. Be like, oh crap! Like this last year, I think I turned the Easter Bunny on like 4 days before Easter or something. I was like, oh, sorry. Yeah. Right now, I enable most of the Christmas and Easter stuff. Enable it manually, so I just have to remember to do that. Like I said, it's easier for Christmas because I just do that usually right after Thanksgiving. I could automate that one because Christmas is the same day every year, so I could have that, just automatically flip itself on. But I guess Thanksgiving moves around, so at least if I'm sticking by the rule of turning it on after Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving is always like I think the fourth Thursday in November. Who knows why they came up with that, but that's what it is. Um, Though I guess it's different for different countries too. Like, my wife is Polish, and so she's telling me that like they usually put Christmas stuff up like right before Christmas, and then keep it up until the end of January or like early February or something, which is totally different than it is here in the U.S. It's like everyone puts their Christmas stuff up like all through the month of December, and then as soon as Christmas is over, like on January first, everyone takes everything down. So it's kind of different in different parts of the world, I guess. The parts of the world that even like do Christmas. Not everywhere does, I guess. What was new in previous coffee episodes? Oh my goodness. Um, I think last time was just kind of a one of those just like chatting about game development episodes. So there wasn't a ton to announce. Um, yeah, this week is, I mean, the kind of big announcement. If you saw, I mean, it's not a huge announcement, but I finally got the Android version of the game back together. So if you've been following, I've been working on this like 1728 update for many weeks now, longer than I thought. It's a pretty big update, um, at least on the technical side. I know I hate when I say, "Oh, it's a big update," and then people are like, "What? There's no new characters, or whatever." So it's a big update from a like working towards 2.0 standpoint, from a like getting pieces in place technical standpoint. Um, but anyway, if you go to the download section on ballistica.net, you'll see there is once again an Android version up here. Bomb Squad Android generic. Um, yeah, I finally got that put back together yesterday. So if there were a ton of changes I had to make. Basically, the source of this was I was trying to get the Mac version updated and back on the Mac App Store, and also at the same time I was trying to like get a bunch of stuff ready for like the iPhone and the other like Apple platforms. So I wound up like ripping a bunch of stuff apart, and kind of just reassembling a bunch of like the graphics engine layer and things like that, which applied to like everything. And some cool stuff that came out of that is, there's like the frame rate limits and stuff like in the Windows and Linux versions, like that kind of came out of the same effort. So it was like this kind of big like cleanup, which was great to do, but it definitely took a little more time than I thought. And so the last piece of that was getting the Android version kind of back together in that new system. And so there's been a lot of cleanup there. So hopefully it is. Everyone's talking about watermelons. Hopefully it's still working for everyone. So if you all have a chance to give this version a try, either install the APK here, or if you go to Google Play Open Testing, if you sign up for that, you should get 1.7.30 also. Which, by the way, that number is still the same as it started as 1.7.2.8 was the big update, but I've had to bump the number a few times. On a random bit of trivia is that every time you submit to, so like the Mac App Store it's now updated. Yay! Go Bomb Squad. We will actually see 1729. Hooray! That was stuck at 1.4 point something for like 5 years. But anyway, the bit of trivia is anytime you update on the Mac App Store, or I assume any of Apple's app stores, like you have to bump the version number. So I'm used to like doing just the Google Play Store for the past several years, where like I can keep it at like 1728 or 1729 and just like update the build number, like this number here. So there could be like 10 different 1729s. But on Apple stuff, it doesn't work that way. So on Apple stuff, I have to bump the version number every time I submit something new, which is reasonable. I mean, that kind of helps people know like if they have the newest version. So you might see the version numbers incrementing more than they used to is the point there. All right, let me catch up here. So if you have a chance to try these Android versions, let me know if you run into problems. They seem to be working for me. There's a few little like bugs that I need to smooth over, but I'll probably start rolling that out to like the general Android population very soon. So like I said, please let me know if anything is majorly broken, so I can get that fixed first. I prefer the bumping. No, it is. I think bumping the version number is probably good because then, some people are probably confused where they're like, oh, I got 1728. And then, the Google Play Store has another update. And it's like, wait, it's still the same one. Is Google Play broken? They probably are very confused, like why they get repeated updates for the same version number. So it's probably good to kind of keep me honest and make me update the version number every time I submit a new update. But it won't be every time. I probably won't update like the Mac App Store version as often as the Google Play Store version because it's currently it takes a little longer to do. I can automate some of that, but anyway, that's a side note. So now that most of this stuff is back in, like basically all the major versions are put back together. Well, I shouldn't say all the major versions. There's still one that I really would like to get updated, which is the VR version. I don't know. Maybe I'll take an afternoon and try to do that. That's like the one super out of date version. If you have a Oculus Rift, like the desktop VR, for Windows, which is, I feel like they're kind of abandoning that. Like everything is all about like the Quest and like standalone VR. But anyway, Bomb Squad is on like the Rift, like desktop VR, and that version is super old. It's still like 1.4 or something. So I'd kind of like to get that updated just so I have like a VR version to test, just to make sure like the VR stuff is still working. So maybe I'll take a little time and do that, but we'll see. You can tell, I don't know if you can see, I'm definitely in like testing mode lately. Like if you look at like my desk, there's just like phones and controllers and just junk littered around. Over there, there's my Quest. So I've just been like, testing on this, testing on that. There's another phone back there, testing on that. I need to clean my room also. Room tour with Eric. Yes. Room is like, it's especially messy now. We have, there's some like boxes of junk in the back. I need to clean that up too. So I don't want my office to turn into a storage room. So now that Android and Mac builds are back in town, what are the current plans? I love that watermelon has become like the new meme. I'm gonna have to add like a watermelon, like an official watermelon bomb, and like Scene V2 or something. Sorry, I'm jumping around. Is it possible to code Bomb Squad to PlayStation 5? I'm sure it would run amazingly on a PlayStation 5. It's more just a question of time and resources. A lot of this work I've been doing on like revamping these builds is to kind of just clean them up. Like if you saw like the Android build, I do hope to get the Android code public at some point. It's more just like I need to take the time to do that and make sure it's not going to like enable hackers too much. But yeah, the code is so much cleaner in 1.7.30 than it was in 1.7.2.7, like the last one that everyone has. So that's why I'm hoping it didn't break stuff for too many people. But it's like I ripped out tons of like old version specific code, or there was lots of like code where like if I'm running on this specific Android tablet, then turn off this specific thing. And a lot of that was for like really old tablets and things that are probably not around anymore. So I did a lot of just like cleaning the code up so it's more readable and understandable, and hopefully still works well for everyone. There's a few more limitations though now too. Like the code all uses OpenGL ES3, which has been out since like 2014. So hopefully everyone's device supports that. But if you happen to be running the game on like a super, super, super old or, obscure Android device that only supports like ES2, you may be stuck with the old version. I'm trying to balance it so not too many people get stuck with old builds like that. But at some point, it's to maintain my sanity, I have to move things forward. Also, I just bumped the minimum Android version to Android 6. So if there's still anyone out there on Android 5 devices, you'll also be unfortunately stuck at the older version. But there's also an upside to that though too. I think I put this in the release notes, is that if you're running a really old device, it's almost better to keep running an older version of the game because it'll probably perform better. Like as the game, it kind of grows in size and becomes a bit more resource intensive like as it goes. So at some point, it's probably better to like lock old devices to old versions just so they can keep at least playing, single player stuff reasonably. But anyway, yeah, Android 6 is now, as of yesterday, Android 6, or as of 1.7.30, Android 6 is the minimum version. In terms of physics and mechanics in game, yeah, none of that has changed, but there's a lot more Python code and just like libraries that it's linking against, like the Google Play Games library and things like that. I mean, I guess that stuff probably gets updated anyway, even with old versions. But things generally just grow in size. Like it's really interesting. I was testing on this tablet this morning, which this is a NVIDIA Shield tablet Shield tablet. It was a super nice tablet when it came out, and like that was probably like 2015 or something. But I was testing the latest build of the game, and I don't know if it's how much of it is the game's fault and how much of it is just Android's fault. Like everything is probably ballooned in size, but like that tablet is so slow now. Like it took it like 2 minutes to launch the game, and it's not because the game's graphics and things like that aren't really more demanding now. It's just I think everything just takes more memory, is bigger, so it just like it feels so slow. Whereas it felt like super speedy and awesome when it was brand new, like 5 years ago. So that's one of those things where it's not necessarily like the graphics and the physics becoming more demanding. It's some of it is just things get bigger and slower. Also like the fact that when I was first testing this, it was the old build that was running like Python 2.7. I'm sure there's Python 2.7 and probably a lot less Python code. So just the memory requirements of what we are now with Python 3.11 and probably a lot more Python code. It's probably just a lot more pressure on low memory devices like that. So, sorry, I need to get back to that original question, which is like, what is next? I'm doing my normal thing where I just go off on tangents. I don't know how much RAM this thing had. Probably not a ton. I mean, whatever. Like I said, it was kind of a decently high end device. Like it was good for gaming back in about 2015. But I'm not sure what the average RAM would have been back then. It was really interesting. Like once the game finally came up, like the finishing install dialogue took like 2 or 3 minutes or something. It must have just been completely out of RAM, and like I don't think Android tablets do swapping or what, but yeah, it took it forever to get to the menu. But once it actually got in the game, then it ran decently well, like 60 frames per second and all that. So, but it was interesting to see. Oh, on that note, one thing I do plan on doing pretty soon, I don't know if I'll do it for 1.730. I'll probably get 1.730 out and then do it. Is updating all the textures in the game to be ASTC. Um, right now they're ETC2, and the game will still support ETC2 textures and ETC1, but ASTC is the cool, awesome, better compressed texture format for mobile devices, and that's what the Apple, like the iPhone and the iPad and all that they will be using 100% ASTC. So I'd prefer to have the Android side do that too. So that'll probably be coming pretty soon, just as a heads up. That's another one of those things where like there's probably a few devices out there that don't support ASTC textures and only support like ETC. And so that's kind of another reason to bump, minimum version to 1.6. So then the 1.5 devices still get textures that they natively support. I'll add a fallback, so if like the device doesn't support ASTC textures, it'll decompress them and use them uncompressed, but that's not optimal. Usually I have them like only use like the half size textures in that case. Like right now it's like that if you're running a device that doesn't support, like if you have a PC that doesn't have a graphics card that supports like DXT5 or whatever the texture format is, it will just decompress them into uncompressed textures, which is, not great, but at least works. So it wastes memory and stuff. It's better to have like the graphics card support those texture compression formats natively. Sorry, I'm getting all uber geeky about all this stuff, but anyway, ASTC coming soon. Woohoo! Burr, 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 burr. Oh yeah, Android textures. Yeah, part of that is just I don't like ETC2 textures do look a little crusty. Some of them are ETC1 actually for backwards compatibility, so those will all be replaced with ASTC. ASTC is super nice. If anyone wants to look it up, ASTC, which is not the Association of Science and Technology. ASTC textures. I don't know if there's some differences here. A lot of these places they'll have like side by side with like ETC versus ASTC. Let's see if we can find that. Oh, here's improve your game with format targeting, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Well, the one cool thing about ASTC is it has a bunch of options. So you can do like low bit rate or high bit rate. Like that's the thing I'm looking forward. So we can like find one that like looks good, like a balance between, size and quality. With ETC and with these old ones, ETC and ETC2, it's just like you're stuck with a single value. And that's why a lot of the textures look like crap. So it's like ETC does a worse job, I think, than like the desktop stuff, which is like DXT5 or BC5, whatever it is. So yeah, this should give us like a nice little knob we can turn to like make all the textures look good. So very exciting. So yeah, so then going back to that original question of what comes now. So maybe I'll try to get the VR version updated. I'm not quite sure. But what I'd really like to dive into is get a little bit of squads mode going. And I know squads mode is not really supposed to be a real feature till 1.9, but I've been kind of saying I'd like to at least get it started in 1.8. Because I think squads mode and asset packages, they're kind of work together in a way. So it's like I kind of want to develop them all sort of together, which is why I kind of feel like maybe one of the next things I'll do is, like that really basic squads mode stuff. I'd love to get it where people can like write their own squads mode thing, in workspaces and just deploy that and play it with friends. Like I said, it'll probably start as something ridiculous, like you'll only be able to make like text-based RPG adventures, or, basically like all you'll be able to do is just like a text-based game probably in the first version. Just something ridiculous where like you can meet up with your friends and you can play your little text-based like RPG that you write, or something where there's not actually a ton going on. It's mostly just about like hooking up all the pieces, But I'd love to get that in place. And honestly, I think it'd be kind of fun to write a little text-based RPG. Yeah. Did any of you like if you're learning to code or script or whatever, did any of you do that? Like I know that was the very first thing I did when I was learning programming is because you learn just like with a DOS prompt looking thing or like a text input is like writing a little RPG. Like, you have encountered a troll. Do you want to attack or run away or use a health potion? Just like simple stuff like that. It's kind of like the easiest thing to program, when you're first starting out. So. Is this a plush copy of it? Yes. Bomb Squad plushie when? If some of that's on you guys. If anyone can find like a service or a company that will make plushies, and like I've never looked into how to get plushies made, but if we can find something where we can like submit some designs and get some plushies made, and people can like buy plushies, like I am all for it. I would love to. This room needs more plushies. Bomb Squad closes immediately on my Android. The update, the new one, the 1730. Okay, so yeah, if you get Bomb Squad closing immediately, hopefully that'll just show up in my logs. We'll see. If not, I might ask you to take a look at your Android log if you can, or something. I swear Bomb Squad 2, 2.0 and all that will come eventually, making slow and steady progress. I know it's, I mean, this comes up a lot, is like the game itself on the outside, like looking at it and looking at just like characters and maps and stuff, it does look like nothing has changed in like 10 years, in a way. But there has been a ton changing. There's, I'm considering this almost like building a new game or something, or it's almost like, it's like building a new foundation for a house while keeping the house there. It's something where it's like, it's kind of tricky, trying to just like build this engine or build this kind of environment that we can use to build a bunch of other cool stuff, but also like keeping Bomb Squad working on top of it. So I know when I say like, yeah, I've been working on Bomb Squad, I'm basically, I've been working on the foundation and the engine and stuff that's going to let us make cool stuff. But yeah, the game itself is, I apologize, it hasn't changed as much as it could. But I swear, keep the faith. It will be getting to the point where there's lots of cool stuff coming. I mean, everyone's done like really cool modding stuff, so hopefully some of the API cleanup and all that has been beneficial for people. Drink some mug of Zelda. Yeah, I also feel bad that my mug has been this boring, super high-tech Darth Vader electronic mug for a while. I should go back to switching to different mugs. This one's just so convenient with like keeping my drink warm. I threw a little hot cocoa in there today, so it's like mostly coffee, but a little bit of hot cocoa. So getting in the holiday spirit. Yeah, and this, I mean, we were talking a lot about this last week, just like character balance stuff. Want characters to be more strong or whatever, and yeah, that's another big motivation for wanting to get all this stuff in place, like Scene V2, basically being able to kind of revise game rules or come up with kind of an updated version of all the physics and stuff, but without like breaking all the stuff that's already in there, so all like the classic stuff will still behave as it has been. It's kind of like an argument, I'm doing this in a weird way where I'm basically trying to keep the original game there and just like add new game features or almost like new games on top of it, so there'll be like classic mode and then squads mode, and they'll probably have like slightly different physics and looks and feels and whatever. A lot of developers would just take the approach of like split off a new game, Bomb Squad 2 or whatever, which is just only new stuff. But I kind of like, I like keeping the old one up and running and polishing it a little bit, and otherwise I feel like it just gets abandoned. Anyone playing 1.0, like eventually I'd stop updating 1.0 and, like that's no fun. Voice lines came from. Voices are a bunch of things. Some of them I did, a few of them like my friends did. Some of them are from like free sound sites on the internet. Yeah, some of them used to be celebrity voices, and then I, tried to kind of like make my own version, kind of copying them. So I don't know. They've come from all over the place. But yeah, this something like this is a good idea, like competition mode, or could be a good idea. Um, yeah, just taking out the parts that you know are exploited or make the game less fun for competitive good players. I was mentioning this last week is that when I was writing the game, I was mostly writing it from a standpoint of playing it with friends, and it's kind of like casual fun play. No one was being super competitive, and I mean, people were playing as well as they could, but no one had played the game before, really, so I wasn't really approaching it from the standpoint of like what is going to work well for like high end competition. So we definitely could use a tuning pass for that, and I know people have done that in mods and things, but it'd be great to kind of wrap some of that into the core game. I mean, hopefully it's possible to wrap that into the core game without breaking it for casual play too. Just hopefully there's a happy medium there where something that's fun for like new people, but it's also like holds up when it's pro people. Uh, oh wow, you're throwing a good smile company. Makes good figures and merchandise. Huh. I'll have to look into that. I guess another thing for me is like what is low not low maintenance, I guess you'd say. Like something where I could like work with a company and like I wouldn't have to do a ton of like maintenance in terms of like shipping things or arranging shipments and stuff like that. Um, there are companies like that. That's why I'm working with like Amazon for like the T-shirt thing. I know that's only available in some countries, but it's basically like you set up designs and then all of that goes through Amazon, which is like that's great for indie types like myself. Um, that's definitely something I'm more aware of now than I used to be. Is like when I'm setting something up, is like how how much work is this going to be to keep this running? Like how much can I automate this? Because I feel like to do a big game like this, or not that the game is huge, but to keep something like this running and doing it myself, it's like that's definitely got to be a concern. Is like how can I automate as much as possible, or that's why like all my server system and stuff, I kind of go pretty slow on that to try to make sure like everything handles itself. Like the servers, if there's a downtime or some server issue, like they'll still behave reasonably. I don't have to like log in and try to fix like 30 servers manually, stuff like that. Oh, roadmap seagull. Uh-oh, what did I miss? Hey, roadmap seagull. So this feedback is accepted. Well, I feel like the competition stuff or the competitive stuff, I feel like we're gonna have like a powwow. It's more just like I'm open to trying to embrace that for Scene V2 or for like the next official iteration of gameplay. I don't know the right way to do that, if there's like a switch we flip for competitive mode, or if it's just like trying to finesse the gameplay to be more pro friendly in the first place. I'd almost prefer that, where if it's possible to have gameplay that is pro friendly but also newbie friendly. Like to me that seems optimal. But maybe there's a switch you flip where it just turns off some features that are like, if there are features that newbies love but pros hate, like maybe we do want to switch. I don't know. Uh, would it be possible to make buttons do different things in the UIs? Grab opening a settings menu. We could, I mean, anything is possible. It's a question of, yeah, like, is there, like, if you have a proposal for, like what modern game UIs, how they work, definitely, I'd love to hear it. If you write up something just quick and, yeah, I could try to take that into account. The input and UI systems are all like kind of old and crusty and due for some polishing and update. So I'm happy to hear ideas. Oh, when I say squads, so the squads isn't clans. Clans is more like a static group of people that are like sharing progress, or like a team almost. Squads, when I'm talking about squads, it's basically the concept of, like when you hop in Fortnite or something, basically inviting people to your little group and then playing with that group, like getting matched up against another. I guess in Fortnite's case, it's getting matched up against a ton of people, but basically like inviting people to a little live group and then getting matched against other groups like that. So that's what squads will be. So the 2.0 will focus more on squads, where it's, there'll still be single player stuff and all the classic stuff will still be there. But what I want the game to be as much as possible is, I'd love it to be like online competition of just either playing by yourself or inviting a few friends and then, playing against other groups and having that be like ranked if you want, if that's your thing. So just having that as an option, because, thinking of games that I've liked playing, like Clash Royale and stuff, where it's just I'm going to hop on and, just play against other random people on the internet and, get stuff for doing that. Basically that kind of concept. But having multiplayer be like very well supported to where, like, if you want to hop on and play random 2v2s or something, like that's possible. Or you want to invite a friend and play random 2v2s, or invite 3 friends and play random 4v4s, or just free-for-alls or whatever. So just the idea that like the kind of the base foundation of the game is built around like playing with friends, as opposed to that being like a add-on. Like in Classic, that was kind of an add-on where you go to gather and it's a bit of a hassle, when you go join a game online. It's just like, it's like old school PC gaming, where it's like a static set of games and you can hop in one, but it throws you in the middle of some game that's going on already. So I'd rather, the matchmaking stuff, that'll all be part of squads, like having it be more modern and more like, like play a match with a certain set of people. Oh, geez, people are... I can't comment on this. This is maybe a future character. I got to be careful when I'm waving cameras around here. But yeah, clans would be a different thing. Clans would be hard to add. Like that would be an interesting... I feel like I don't know enough about clans right now to try to design that. I feel like I know enough about like squads and how I feel like that should work. But yeah, like a clan system, maybe we can build that on top of squads. Like once the squad system is working well and there's like a good basis for like, yeah, like competitive ranking and things like that. Like I feel like then maybe a clan system could be built on top of that. But yeah, for 2.0, the plan is squad system is the big core feature there. But yeah, that could open up like fun opportunities. Like if you did have clans, like there'd be different game modes. Yeah, where maybe it's like everyone in the clan or 2 clans face off, or yeah, who knows. So it'd be fun to talk about. But it's or yeah. So any ideas you all have like this is cool. But yeah, that would be more like in the planning stages. Maybe that would be like 2.1 or something. Oh, NASA news about a global internet. Oh, is that a thing? Like, is there an ongoing internet outage or something? I'm not. Like I said, I'm mostly trying to design all my stuff so it just handles outages somewhat gracefully, and it's doing a decent job. If I come and show you my little fleets system here. So this is my kind of the V2 servers. You've all seen this map a million times, but each of these is just like I need a better name for these. Like they're just called BASN nodes, but it's basically just little like regional outposts. These little like areas where I'm running servers. You can totally tell there's not as many Androids in the US. I've pointed that out before, because yeah, there's definitely more players in like countries where Android phones are more common. So, but yeah, anyway, yeah, these are all my servers. Occasionally some of them will have errors. You can see if I scroll down. Actually, they're all behaving pretty well right now. There's a few like warnings here, but there's no like red lights. So haven't been any major outages lately. Yay. Oh, I forgot to check for submarines. That's the most important part of that map is submarines. Haha! Oh, actually, that might be, is that Hawaii? That might be Hawaii. That doesn't count. I got a few players out here. There's maybe submarines. Someone over here. Maybe there's an island there. I'm not sure. But yeah, there's no like deep sea submarines that I'm seeing. Huh. Shucks. That's just Baby Yoda. Sorry, I'd love to add Baby Yoda to the game, but I feel like I would have to I have no idea. That would probably be. Is Baby Yoda in any games? Like, does Lucasfilm do like partnerships like that? It's interesting to see more games like Mortal Kombat and or Fortnite, where it's like they're starting to get kind of random characters from movies and pop culture and stuff showing up. So anything is possible, but it's not something I've looked into. That's just my Baby Yoda. He just hangs out on my shelf. Disney equals cop. I mean, I'm sure Disney has very like strict regulations, and it's probably a lot of work to work with them and use their characters and stuff. But could be worth it. Who knows? But I feel like that's something where I wouldn't even want to try to approach companies for that unless it would be like super casual or like another indie or something like that. But to me, it seems like I would have to hire people to like wrangle all that. That sounds like there'd be like legal agreements and lots of paperwork and oversight, and yeah, that sounds a little bit, not saying it wouldn't be worth my time, but it sounds a little bit like it would be a significant chunk of time. That would just be my guess. Or yeah, Among Us, yeah, maybe. It'd be interesting. Among Us, they seem like sort of like a small indie game in a way, but they're so huge, or like it's been so popular. I'm sure it's like a really big team, and maybe not, but I imagine that's almost closer to like Disney than to an indie game. Static builds, lower glibc requirements. That could be worth, like maybe, like I said, I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to focus on next. There's a bunch of things that would be fun little like mini projects. That could be one of them, is trying to get this thing kind of building with low glibc requirements, or or get it to the point where I can. I was thinking of maybe just trying to get like Steam early access builds going or something where it's just, yeah, it's something where I could just test it on my Steam Deck, or people could test Steam in-app purchases or things like that. Like that could be a fun little mini side quest. Yes, I need that. I need just a tan robe. The cup kind of fits if I hide the handle. It's a little. Oh, that would Mickey Mouse character. So that would be interesting because we were talking about copyright recently, and there was something in the news. I know, like the original version of Mickey Mouse is like out of copyright. Like the copyright finally expired, and so I think like the original like Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse is technically no longer copyrightable. So a game could actually theoretically include that version of Mickey Mouse, but it's certain thing. I think like the name is trademarked or something, so you couldn't call him Mickey, or there's certain like limitations where like you wouldn't be able to. You'd have to probably be very careful with it, but there's also, for me, it's like even if it is technically legal, I don't want to have Disney angry at me. It just doesn't seem like a good place to be. So I'd rather do, like there's parody, like you can do parodies and stuff of things where it's like if something is clearly kind of parodying a character, but it's not that character. So I could do, like Monty Mouse, or, something that was kind of clearly based on Mickey Mouse. I'd almost rather do that, where it's like this is like an homage to Mickey Mouse, but it's not actually Mickey Mouse. Oh, or is it next year? Okay, maybe it's next year. But I was reading that it's very specifically like the version of Mickey Mouse from, whenever the expiration is, like 100-something years ago. So it's like not like modern Mickey Mouse. It's like black and white, like Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse. Let's take a look. Steamboat Willie. So we could have, which would be kind of cool, like basically that. Like we could have like that Mickey Mouse theoretically in the game. Just maybe not called Mickey Mouse. It would just be like Steamboat Mouse. I don't know. Oh, geez. I'm missing things. We add the scrapped characters. Oh. Warrior. Well, my plan, I mean, I could, but my my plan has been to try and get 1.8 out the door, which is going to have the package system, which means that we can have characters dynamically downloaded. And so, like, those placeholder characters, I put those in there long ago so that I would be able to basically fill in those characters and, like, change their assets. and then it wouldn't break like old copies of the game because they would already have those characters. They would just be like the spaz, basically the copies of spaz. Um, so I probably won't need to use those placeholders if 1.8 comes out and we get proper downloadable assets. It would just be better to use downloadable assets because they're not going to like add size to the game, and we can make as many as we want. We're not limited to those, but a lot of those names for those characters, I would still like to make those. Like I put names in that I thought they would be fun characters to make. Like Warrior, I think was like some. I don't know what Warrior would have been because it wouldn't be like Kronk is already kind of like a barbarian warrior looking dude, so Warrior would be more, I don't know, maybe like a knight or something. But anyway, there's several, a lot of those characters I put in, I thought they would be kind of fun characters to have. So they'll probably still make an appearance at some point. It might not be through those placeholder things, if that makes sense. Crypt of the Necrodancer. Oh, I've heard a lot about that game. Yeah, oh, that'd be cool. Send some overclock demo. Oh, sure. Did you want to show stuff here? Or when you say send, what do you mean by send? Yeah, I'd love to. Let's take a look at overclocked stuff. See what's up. Showcase. All right, do it. Let's do a showcase. Like I said, today is, there's no, aside from like the Android updates and whatever, it's not a, strict plan day. So, and overclocked stuff is awesome. So let's take a look. In the meantime, I will. What languages do you know? Is this programming languages or real languages? Because one is a bigger list than the other. Squad available on iOS. Oh, this is Roadmap Seagull. Where's Roadmap? Well, I'll just answer that. 2.0 is the plan. So in the middle of 1.8 right now. 1.9 will be. There's Roadmap Seagull. But yeah, 2.0 is the big plan for 2.0 is kind of a relaunch on iOS and tvOS, all of Apple's OSs, and also Steam. That's kind of the plan for there is to kind of be a big splashy relaunch. Just need to get squads in place, basically. Downloadable assets and squads are basically the two remaining features. And yeah, I need to. A part of that is getting squads mode with like the new monetization, kind of the new way to kind of play the game. I need to get that in place. I definitely can't launch iOS right now because I've mentioned this before, but I have all these servers that I'm spun up. That map I just showed, and that's very expensive. Like that's a lot of AWS servers. So I definitely need to make that stuff pay for itself. So I need to kind of get the revamped monetization and squads mode and stuff where people are hopefully paying a little bit occasionally for free to play stuff or unlocking things or whatever, just so that those servers will pay for themselves. Because right now, if the game is technically a little bit in the red because of those servers, so if I brought in a crap ton more users, it would go from a little bit in the red to a lot in the red. So I definitely do not want to bring in a ton more users right now. But once it gets to the point where those servers pay for themselves, then yeah, that'd be great. Bring it on. English, Spanish. I mean, I know English. I took 4 years of Spanish in high school, so I can understand a little bit, but I've not really kept that up. And then I understand tiny bits of Polish. So yeah, I'm not great with languages, but I know more programming languages than real ones. Oh, that's cool. Aw. Yeah, that's impressive. Like the theme system. So much of the game was just like so many hard coded values, where it's basically just defining buttons and just like setting a color for them to try to like fit in with all the other buttons and stuff. But there hasn't been like I never put in like a proper theming system, so that's awesome. But that's a lot of work, so very impressive. Very cool stuff. Voice chat option in game. That's a pending. We'll see. long story short, we've talked about this before, but one difficulty there is I like, as much as possible these days, I like to have everything in the game be available on all platforms, and there's not like a single universally available voice chat that I'm aware of. Or if there is, I could consider implementing that, but I'd want that to be for like squads mode, probably just like with your friends. So like you invite two people to your squad and you can talk with your friends, but like it wouldn't be like global. You wouldn't just like hear everyone you're playing against. I feel like there's probably a good way to do it, a reasonable way to do it, but right now that's kind of the limitation. Is it would be very complicated. Like I want it to be easy to like have two people on an Android device play with someone on Steam and maybe one dude on a VR headset. And like I just don't know if there's any possible like voice chat that would work everywhere, And so it'd be a bummer to have like some complicated system where it's like, oh, you can talk with this guy, but not these two guys. Well, these two guys can talk to each other, but not you two. And it's like, ew. It'd be super cool, like, to have something that was just implemented where like you join a squad and you can talk with squad members, but again, I don't know if technically that is possible right now. But also again, I don't want it to be something that is like, I hate games where I just jump in and I'm hearing, like some super annoying little kid yelling at everyone or something. Like I don't want to wind up in that place. So it would be cool. Like I know like for me, I love playing games with friends where you just like, but I guess you can use Discord for that. I almost said TeamSpeak. I was like, oh man, I'm wrong. Wrong decade. Harvester. What is this? Epic Harvester. Oh, skull Easter egg. I like it. I wish there was a way I could have these videos like mostly full screen. There probably is. So how's Harvester work? I feel like it's not immediately clear. Is it just like picking up eggs? Like you get points for... Oh, return eggs to your flag. Oh, okay. That makes sense. I feel like it needs a little like return eggs to your flag. But a quick note on that's a cool idea. That reminds me of, I know I've always mentioned an old game called Myth 2 as a inspiration for Bomb Squad originally, if anyone's ever heard of it. But yeah, it's like this real-time strategy game. It was like a 3D real-time strategy game, very like early. But I loved that game because it had a bunch of mini games and things like that. And one of them was, there were some that were like around like pigs. Like you had these pigs, you either had to like escort them to like a fence or... So anyway, this is Myth 2. But yeah, this was an early Bungie game before they made Halo. But yeah, there was some where like you'd have to either like get these little pigs, like escort them to a place or like defend them. And like that was so much fun, just like, like harvesting these pigs. And it was so much fun if you like got into someone else's pigs and you just start like killing their pigs. It was like, no, my pigs. So that reminds me of like, that'd be a cool thing, like making little... It works with eggs too, that works, but like having some little like chickens or pigs or some cute little thing that you're trying to like save or rescue or transport, like that'd be fun. Main feature, overtime. Oh, that's cool, like an overtime. Is this showing overtime, I'm guessing? Or is this showing themes? I was going to say, it doesn't look like it'd be overtime here. That's cool. Very... Oh, no, it is overtime. Wait, what? It's 4-1. Why is there overtime? Multi-puck? What? That's kind of funny. Cool. Yeah, that's a. I wonder if there'd be a way to like generalize that or something. Well, you probably found a way to generalize it, at least for the, yeah, for that stuff. Christmas minigame. That would be fun. Yeah, just another one. No real reason I haven't. It's mostly just because I'm mostly spending my time on the back end stuff. Again, my overall plan for the game, like my hopes for the game, is to get things to a point where I can start to showcase like mods and people's games that they've made. Like I'd love to act as like a moderator or kind of a. There's a word I'm looking for is when you have a set of like a. Basically, just I'd love to be able to kind of like feature mini games that I think are really fun that people make. So like Christmas games or things like that. I'd love to be able to kind of point at other people's work, so that it's not bottlenecked by like things that I can make. I want to make more mini games and stuff myself too, but my overall goal is to be able to kind of like share what the world is making. I call it football. We're not the same. But yeah, like a good soccer map. There's been a number of people that have made soccer mini games or football. Call it whichever you call it. Like that'd be cool. Oh yeah, yeah. This brings in another. The map would start to shrink. Like destructible maps. That would be another super cool thing. I'd love to get in there. Hopefully that's something. The reason I haven't gotten destructible or changeable maps in there is largely to do with client prediction because it wouldn't work well in the current system. I think so. As like Scene V2 or V3 or whenever client prediction starts to come online, hopefully that'll start to open up destructible map options. I hate. I shouldn't say I hate talking about upcoming features, like things that just aren't there yet, but I feel like I'm over promising, be like, oh, and then we can do this cool thing, and like all this stuff is like all of this is a lot of time. It's not going to be anything that like, oh, it'll be there next month, but it would still be awesome to have, and I'd love to work towards that. So I apologize if I spend a lot of time talking about like pie in the sky future ideas, but I think part of that is important to just like stay excited about the game and stuff too. Is like, oh, it'd be great to get there. Oh, Tower D map playable in the future. I mean, there's no technical reason it's not. We could make it playable. It's just like I just didn't really design it for team games, so we could do that. Are there any? I mean, like maybe like a version of it. Like there's the bumpers right now that keep you from like jumping up into like the Tower D sections. Like if you played without that, it could be. Or I guess like the Easter egg hunt, isn't there? Like there's a version on the Easter egg hunt where like that's turned off. I think so yeah, maybe that would be interesting to have like team games on there. If anyone wants to experiment and show that it works well, we could make that official. Yeah, that's cool. Like the multi puck thing. It'd almost be cool to like have a little like multi puck or just something. I guess people figure out what's happening, but like my first thought, or not maybe not my first thought, but I would wonder if I saw that happening, I'd be like, wait, why are there multiple pucks? Is the game broken? But just a little thing that would show like this, or just as long as it's clear that that's like this is overtime, things are insane. Just from a communication standpoint, just a idea. Oh, okay. The barrier gets disabled automatically. That's right. It's been a while. Like all this code where it's like I haven't touched that particular map or code in a while. Like I forget how it works. Just like in Courtyard. Okay. Cool. Cool. Is it secure to have a remote Python console without 2FA? I mean, it should be. Well, if you are, yeah, it's. Maybe I should disable that. I should get a better. I do want to add some sort of security feature. Like what I should do now is like an option to just disable the remote console for V2 accounts. But what I'd like to do is have some sort of prompt basically saying like, maybe the first time or something, just, for every device that is, connected with remote console, just some like little like, hey, are you sure you want to allow remote console commands? Like this is you doing these, right? Some little confirmation thing like that. So yeah, it probably could be made a bit more secure there. I have in general, I guess one thing that you could do is if you're logged in with Google Play, um, I do confirm all logins with Google. So if you're logged in with Google Play or now Game Center on the new Mac version, that will verify that you are, that should be 100% certain that it is your Google Play account. So if your Google Play account or your Game Center account, as long as that stuff is secured with 2FA, you should be good. Um, the only one where theoretically, it could be open is like if you have an email password login and you don't have the 2FA option on, then theoretically someone could guess your password. So it's like maybe try to use Google Play or Game Center if you're concerned about that right now. And then ping me or try to remind me that I should add that option to either disable remote console stuff or just add the confirmation dialog. Because I definitely, that would be a lot of power if someone were like hacked to hack that and then suddenly they have a remote console into your game. Though in most cases, like the standard Google Play version of the game or the Mac version of the game, mobile stuff all runs sandboxed, so it's like it's not like they can wreak too much havoc on your device. They can just do whatever the game would do, which is not much, but still, like we still want to avoid that, especially on like the PC versions or test builds, because in that case, they could do more if they were to get a remote console. So definitely want that stuff to be secure. Identify players' countries based on their location, offer gifts or discounts according to the customs and festivals of that country on specific days. That would be super cool. Again, that's mostly just like a bandwidth thing. Like if it gets to the point where I'm hiring people to like build assets, like that'd be super cool. Or, again, like my overall goal is to try to get to the point where I can highlight people's stuff that they've made, to make the game more kind of like about modding and people making stuff. So if someone wanted to make a super cool character that was, specific to a holiday in their country, then, I'd be happy to maybe like work on wiring that up to where like that was available in that country during a certain time or something. And, I'd love to be able to like, if people make an awesome character, I'd love to be able to like pay the person that made the character or something. Like that's my hope is to, again, I don't want to like false promise stuff, but like I'd love to be able to like share, if people make awesome stuff, I'd love to be able to like throw that in the store and then like the person would get a portion of that, or I could just pay them up front to be like, hey, I'd love to use your character in the store or something. It's like things like Roblox and stuff where people can actually like potentially make money from making stuff for the game. I don't want it to be all about money, but it's like I don't want to like I'm not trying to just like hog everything for myself. Though I do have to, my first goal is to, like I said, I need to get the game back into the green. Make all these servers actually bring in enough money to support themselves and stuff. Because at that point, then the game can scale as much as we want, and then it's not a worry. But right now, it's like, I'm paying a lot for servers, and so I don't want to be. I mean, the worst case is I would just have to like scale down the number of servers or something right now. But I'd rather not do that. I want to have as many people be able to play the game as they want to. So. Or hire sock. That's the in honesty though, like all the people making awesome stuff, I'd love to reward people, so. Video? That's not a video. Or is there something else you... Oh, it's just an image. But it's... So maybe it would be... Does the map need to be adjusted? I don't even remember if it has like tags for like where there would be team flags and stuff. I mean, we could just flip that on. Because it would be kind of interesting. I guess the one downside is it's technically asymmetrical, so you might get like. But I mean, there's other maps that are asymmetrical, so you can get one team that's complaining. Yeah, that could be an option. Remote consoles disabled without 2FA. So in general, something I do need to do something there. So yeah, maybe like 2FA or using a secure login like Google Play or. But then again, like if they're using a Google Play or a Game Center login, like I have no way to tell if they have 2FA on that. So it's kind of like maybe just like a big warning dialogue the first time it happens or the first time any device tries to issue commands or something. Just saying like, is this you? Do you want to allow from this particular device only or something? Yeah, but yeah, it's a is an important thing. I mean, I'm pretty sure that the V2 account stuff in general is secure. I haven't had any like security scares or anything, but I just I don't want to don't want to invite that. So yeah, I love overtime mechanics. I do love that. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like on Bomberman when it starts to like shrink and bombs come down and stuff. So that's a good mechanic. One thing I should mention too is players' countries. I guess I can mostly tell where people are based on a few things. Like that map system where it shows where people are. That's basically just based on their IP address. Like I'm not doing any sort of like GPS tracking or anything like that for people. Um, oh, whoops! What am I doing? But like these dots, like these green dots for where people are playing the game from, that's just based on like IP addresses connecting to my servers and where Google thinks that IP address is. Sometimes it's completely inaccurate. Um, for instance, I was playing over my cell connection the other day, and I am in California, so I'm basically, oops, I'm like right here. Um, but it was showing up on my account screen as like somewhere over here. Just because I assume the cell network is just so spread out, like they can't based on your IP tell roughly where you are. So I'd wonder, I couldn't really use that to say for sure what country you're in. I mean, if the U.S. is decently big, but if that were in Europe, like that would be a huge, a huge difference, like totally different country. Or most places in the world, countries are smaller than the U.S. is decently one big chunk. I guess India and China and Russia and other countries are pretty big, but Brazil, yeah. Steam Workshop. Yeah, I'm still interested in looking at this. I mean, I want. I mean, maybe that would work in terms of how people would get paid for distributing stuff or things like that. Or, but yeah, it is kind of it could be a limitation where that would only work on PC, so that would be kind of a bummer. Um, yeah, this goes back to the thing where like it bums me out to add things to the game where it's only one specific platform that does things a certain way. Like I'd love to if you're somehow distributing mods and making money off that or something, like that would be great if it worked everywhere. So yeah, maybe the thing you mentioned, I could check into that, or who knows how that would work. But I'd love I'd love for stuff to be as general as possible. Um, that being said, like if stuff like Steam Workshop does provide really nice tools and makes it really easy for people, like maybe that's better than nothing. Who knows? Oh, video. Brr, sorry. Oh, this is the video. Oh, sorry. Whoops. Yeah, I guess in general the overall map does seem playable for that kind of stuff. Huh. Are there any? I guess interesting question would be like, are there modes that don't work well? Though I guess there's some there's some maps where some modes don't work well on them, so I shouldn't discount it based on that. Yeah, those are all good points. I guess I could see it being something where, ideally maybe that wouldn't be, like maybe it wouldn't be a multiplayer map by default, but I support people hacking things a bit to make it, which I guess is kind of what you've done. Yeah, but I'd say what Mickey mentioned that I do totally agree with is just being able to kind of moderate the game or have the stuff that's in there by default be kind of very friendly or newbie friendly or stuff that doesn't confuse people or seem odd. But it is good to have like those extra options for people who really are into the game and want to try extra stuff. I feel like I want my role to kind of be like as almost like a referee or like a moderator in a way, just kind of trying to. I'd love to be able to kind of like look at stuff and see like, oh, okay, this fits in with the game. This feels like it could be exposed to new players, or like, oh, this feels like it's an advanced thing, and maybe some people totally love it, but you have to spend 2 weeks like learning how to play it, and so maybe that would just go into a different section or something. Like I think that would be like that's kind of where I'd like to wind up. Maybe is where it's something like that where everyone can make what they want to make, but it's still like it might not be something that most people get exposed to until they've played for a while or something. And also like I'd love to, I don't know, be able to kind of encourage people to make things friendly and stuff, or maybe have some requirements for that or something, like you have to have a good description of how your game works, or like you need to, like, your power-ups need to be labeled clearly so people can understand it. I don't know. um, so hopefully, I don't know, I'd feel like decent about being a moderator for that, because if I'm playing a mod for the first time, like I can give honest feedback about like I don't understand this, or assigning like a group of moderators to do that. That's something we'll definitely have to talk about is like community moderators. I'd love to have that concept, but like how to do that in like a maintainable way or something. It's kind of like a similar topic with like mods on the site, which I know I've not been super yeah, like everyone on the site here, like Sock and those guys who've been kind of helping run the thing, like they've done a great job. Um, but I haven't really been super hands on and like deciding all that stuff. But I'd probably have to be more like that for like in-game moderators. So it'd be good to see like what would work well in terms of like who should be a moderator, and should moderators be able to like appoint other moderators, or how do we prevent it from like spiraling out of control and it becomes just like a everyone gives their friends mod like moderator status or something. On the code on Pro Onslaught, I wanted to add 7 rounds instead of 6. Oh, I actually wanted to add? What do you mean by that? Like, did I? I don't remember changing anything there. Did I add something? Most server game. Yeah, that's a good point. That yeah, there is kind of a free for all right now on the custom server front. I do feel like squads mode is kind of an opportunity to take control back a little bit, or kind of filter that a bit, because with squads mode, like everything will go through my servers, and it'd be more like I can at least put things into groups. I probably should have done that with the custom server things. Like maybe, like yeah, like I could have assigned. Though that would be a lot of work for me. It's like to assign each server to a group. Like this is a crazy wacky mod server, or this is a vanilla server. Um, but yeah, I would definitely like to do that better with squads mode. And also with squads mode, I feel like I want to be more. I mean, there probably will still be some like Wild West mode you can go into. Just something like show me everything. Like this is all the unmoderated, unfiltered mini games people have written. But I think like for the I guess the experience I'm talking about is like the vanilla out of the box experience you get. Just like if you're just joining the game and you by default like hit play, like what do you see? And like that might include some modded stuff people have written. And so like that stuff is what I want to be very kind of particular about, where it's like something really needs to like fit in to get in like that list. You know what I mean? Oh, sorry, I'm getting off on tangents here. Let me read the rest. Might be a bit clunky to play with. Okay. Well, that's a decent argument. I mean, I guess this probably would just be a matter of what, like maps have tags, right? So it'd just be a matter of like adding a few tags. Um, and that's a good point. Yeah, Big G is super probably annoying on most non-race modes. Um, huh. Maybe, yeah, maybe that's a good idea. I guess the question again, maybe you answered this already, is like, does it require any work? Are there, I don't remember, are there already flags there to where if we just like flip the switch and add that to, the standard lists, like, does it behave reasonably now, or does it need work? Check for you. Doing it manually? Oh, yeah, this sucks. I actually like basically fully automated this to where it used to be like wide textures, and then I wrote something. I wrote like a shake script that would just yeah, basically take all the wide textures, chop them in half, and like stick them into a square. This is also part of the reason for ASTC textures is not on Android, but ASTC textures support wide aspect ratios. You can have something that's twice as wide as it is tall, or vice versa. It's still limited to powers of two, um, but the reason for all these square textures is because the iPhone version, which has never been released, uses PVR-TC textures, which is a super crappy old texture format, and those have to be square. So that's why when I was first porting everything to mobile, I went through and converted everything into square form, which I wish I could undo now, but unfortunately it meant I had to like change all the UVs on the models and things like that. So it would be actually a lot of work to undo it now. Um, but anyway, yeah, but when I switch to ASTC textures, that means I'll be switching that on Android and on the upcoming iPhone version. So that means there's no square requirements anymore. So if you're making new stuff, don't worry about square requirements, though the engine might still, the engine probably still enforces that, right? Maybe? Like if you try to make a non-power of two texture, does the engine like complain like when you try to load it? Because we should take that out because that will no longer be a requirement. So yes, this is the iPhone's fault. Please don't hate iPhone, but it's this is totally because iPhone had that limitation up until ASTC came out. So I should, yeah. And back when I was doing this initial port, this was like 2012 or something, and ASTC did not even exist. So it was kind of a reasonable thing at the time, or maybe it existed, but it was very much like something that you couldn't use because if it did exist, it was only on like the highest end phone or something. What is your inspiration for creating this game? I always like these. Um, Apologies to everyone who's probably heard these stories a million times, but I started writing the game just kind of as a hobby, just for fun. Like I used to, originally it started as like a Bomberman spin-off or clone or something. It was just kind of like I was learning how to do OpenGL graphics and like rigid body physics, and so it was just like it'd be fun to make a little Bomberman type thing using rigid body physics or something. So it started as kind of like a weekend project, just like making this stupid little Bomberman clone thing, but it just kind of kept going, and so it was basically something that I would just like play with my roommates at the time. I was in college. We'd play it. We used to have like Halo parties a lot, like, basically LAN parties. We all played Halo though, like on the original Xbox. Get like 16 people, 16 friends would come over, just have a bunch of food and stuff, and play Halo on like 4 TVs. And so this kind of became Bomb Squad started as just a little goofy thing to like play with my friends like between rounds of Halo, like on our big TV. And then yeah, it just kind of stayed on as a hobby. So I would like play it for years. I would just like play it at Thanksgiving. Actually, was a big thing. Like my family back in Illinois would have like a big Thanksgiving with all the family, and so I'd whip up Bomb Squad, and it kind of became our little Thanksgiving tradition is to play like a 10-player game of Bomb Squad on the big TV downstairs. So for a long time, for like years, it was never even like something I expected to release or sell or anything like that. It was just a hobby, which I kind of think is a fun way to approach making games. Like just make a game that you want to play, and I feel like that in itself will guide you to making something that's good. But then at some point, I had some friends who they got in early on like the iPhone app era. Like they actually made a ton of money. Like they hit number one on like the iPhone top selling or top grossing charts like early on. So they were super successful with that, and they were like, dude, Eric, like we love your game. Like you could make money off that. You should release it on the store. Blah blah blah. So at some point, I released the game on. Well, I took a lot of time and like cleaned up the game. I had to take out all like the celebrities and goofy, irreverent stuff. And so I cleaned up the game and released it on the Mac App Store in like 2011. And so even though it started as a hobby, then it started doing well there, and one thing led to another. And so at some point, that just became like my full-time thing, is making money from the game and working on the game. I feel very fortunate to, the game's done well enough to support me for years now, and so I can spend all this time like kind of working on improving the same game, which again, I feel very fortunate to be in that position. Most games, even like most developers, like they'll have games that are just flop, 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 and then they'll have a hit, and then maybe a few flops, and then some hits. But even like I've been very lucky with like Bomb Squad has stayed very consistent over the years, so. I love being in that position where I can like keep working on the same thing. And again, I apologize to people who are like, nothing's changed in 10 years. But I swear things are changing, and I'm moving it towards this, this next vision I have is, that kind of marketplace idea where it's just like people making all these cool mods that you're all making, just being able to kind of share those, and everyone can play each other's mods, and, maybe I'll act as a moderator of some sort and try to kind of steer people to someone or whatever. But that's kind of like that's the current inspiration for the game, is like kind of coming up with this crazy, little mishmash of all these games. I was also inspired by like Warcraft 3 back in the day. I never actually got good at Warcraft 3, but I loved playing all the little mini games that people made. Like I did that with friends a ton. And so many big things came off of that, like Dota, and almost that whole genre like spawned off of like Warcraft 3 mini games that people made. So I loved just like that dynamic of just like seeing people like taking an existing game and like beating on it and turning it into other things. So I definitely want to just like kind of support that idea. So anyway, that's a long answer to that. Okay, some bugs in the newest Bomb Squad release, which as I mentioned, I do expect that. I'm going to be going into like bug fix mode. So please, anything that is broken, if you can find like a repro case for bugs, like just show me a video or a step-by-step of like, if you do this breaks. Like that is the best, because then I can reproduce that and follow those steps, and then I can fix stuff. But if it's like a random thing that happens like once a week for you, like that's a bummer, because it's hard for me to like fix things that I can't reproduce. But at least if you can like show me what happens, or show me like console output, bring down the dev console and show me like what's on screen after a bug happens, anything like that helps. Dying on campaign after wave 1 does not prompt you to use tickets to continue anymore. Oh, that is a feature. That's another. So because I'm going to be changing the monetization around, like one thing I'm taking out is the continue tickets. Unless there's like a huge outrage against that, I'd rather take that out, because going forward, I want ticket usage to be more about just like unlocking cosmetics and stuff that doesn't affect gameplay. So I kind of want to move it to a place where you get as far as you get, or you do as well as you do based on purely on skill, and not based on like paying money. I don't know. That's always felt a bit wrong to me. But if you all disagree and you like continues, I can keep them in, or I consider keeping them in. But yeah, leaving a local game. Yes, this was a PR to add a 10-second delay for rejoining games. I accepted the PR, and it sounds like it does have legitimate cases for like preventing exploits in online games, but I have noticed a few cases where it is a bit annoying too. Like if you run a stress test, it prevents the stress test players from coming back in. So I'm wondering if there's some smart way that we could like selectively disable this, or maybe it could be like a server option. Like that might be reasonable, where it's like disabled by default, but servers can turn it on. If anyone has any ideas about that or thoughts about it, let me know. Oh yeah, there you're talking about that. But yeah, maybe that would make sense as a server option. Do you think? Like maybe it would just be off by default for just like local players, or for yeah, any game you're hosting locally. But then again, like if you are just like running a desktop version and you host online, you'd probably maybe want it to apply there too. It's a bit of a bummer with adding like server options. It's like then I would have to add the equivalent option in like the host or in the gather section. So anyway, love to hear people's thoughts on what that should be. Coder, I have to yeah, I do hear you here. Like it is kind of, huh? Have to think about that a little bit. Maybe that would be reasonable enough though, because it is kind of like a pro, not a pro feature, but something that like servers would want, like competitive servers. But for just people playing locally, maybe it's not important. How did I understand the whole game foundation was written? Not quite clear on what you're asking. Are you asking if the Bomb Squad engine is usable for more large scale games, or are you asking like, or yeah, maybe that's what you're asking, if the Bomb Squad engine could make more large scale games? I would say, I mean, there's definitely limitations to the Bomb Squad engine in terms of like it's not designed for like huge worlds, like it's or first person shooters, or things where you're going to be seeing a ton of stuff on screen. It's kind of like there's lots of things you have to do there, like frustum culling and basically like seeing like what stuff is visible. If you're doing like a first person shooter, you want to like look through everything in the world and only draw things that you can see and stuff like that. Where Bomb Squad doesn't do that. Bomb Squad like draws everything, even if it's off screen, which is a little inefficient, but most stuff is not off screen in Bomb Squad. Like most stuff you're actually seeing. So that's kind of like it's like a design choice the engine has made. So if you're making something that like fits, in that paradigm, if you're making like a third person top down sort of thing, it's like, you could maybe make a big fancy game with the Bomb Squad engine, but it's more so that it's kind of just designed to do Bomb Squad type stuff. So it's, there'd be a lot of manual work to make it do other things. Like I said, it's not really designed for making a first person shooter or an overworld third person adventure game or something like that. Um, And yeah, I would count Bomb Squad as an indie game. I don't know what your definition of indie game is. I guess that's a question in itself, but I'm the only developer on it, so I would consider that indie. Or yeah, I consider myself an indie, so yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to think. Like, what would you guys consider is the cutoff? Like, when is a game no longer indie? Is it like when there's more than like 5 developers or something, or like? Because I feel like even some indie games have like teams. Well, there used to not be tickets on death, so that was something I added at some point to try because I needed to kind of get the game making a little bit more money, and I think that worked. I think it helped get the game make a bit more money, but now I need to just like the game is back in a place where it needs to make a bit more money, but I want to go ahead and start shifting to like the new monetization, which will be, like I said, I have a pretty clear idea for how it'll work. I'll be probably showing that to you all sometime soonish. I've talked about it before, and yeah, I don't want it to involve any sort of like pay to progress or pay to win. I know that's not really pay to win because it's single player and stuff, but pay to win is more like pay to like beat your competitors online. Like that sucks. But even like pay to progress or whatever. I don't know. I'd like to have things be more like pay to unlock cool shiny stuff that's neat to show off to people, or pay to avoid annoying waits for unlocking that shiny stuff. Um, I feel like that's like a decent social contract. you know. I guess there is that. Like, if people are finding it annoying though, like if it's preventing you from progressing in the game or something, and like you'd like me to turn that back on, like, I mean, I don't know. That's an argument. Um, I'll try to get to PRs soon. I know I've kind of been pushing them off while I've been trying to get the Android version put back together. So I'm going to spend today probably bug fixing, and I can maybe pull in those PRs at the same time. There was the one about adding the Discord link. I just wanted to mention, I can mention it in the PR. I think the PR like adds the Discord link in the gather section and also in the main menu. I was gonna say I'd prefer to just have it be only in the gather section, just because I feel like the main menu there's too many buttons already, and I'd prefer to not add more. So if you're cool with that, I don't know if you don't want to adjust the PR just to have it be the gather section only. Also in the main menu there is the news section at the top that mentions Discord. So it's like I definitely want to steer people towards the Discord server, but I feel like to me that seems like extra clutter. So if you're cool with not having it on the main menu, if you don't want to make that change, then I can just accept the PR immediately. But yeah, pay to win is an abomination. I agree. That's been a really tricky thing with, like, I feel like there's a big upside to free to play games. Like, I love the fact that like anyone can get it, and it really helps like get a big audience and like a large group of people, which I think that's great. But yeah, the downside is then you have to figure out how to like make money from them in a fair way. And so yeah, I feel like we've all seen there's like sleazy ways to do it, and there's I feel like there's some games that are free to play that it feels fair and it doesn't feel sleazy. So like that's a tricky part of like trying to write a free to play game though, is like trying to stay on the right side of that line. Yeah, Phil, ask a question, please. You don't have to ask questions. Yeah, I guess this is kind of a yeah. Tickets to continue is not yeah. I guess it's not pay to win. I guess pay to win is more like if paying gives you an advantage over other human beings. Um, yeah, like if I think about games I grew up like loving, like the Ninja Turtles arcade game. I mean that's exactly pay to continue. You got to put a coin in to keep playing. So it's kind of like it's the same kind of idea. Um, but still in general like I don't know, I would rather people pay money to like unlock some cool thing or help them unlock some cool shiny thing as opposed to unlocking like gameplay or being able to continue playing. i'd rather I'd rather put shiny shiny unlockable things behind a paywall instead of putting gameplay behind a paywall. That also applies to things like being able to edit playlists and stuff like that. Like I'd love to I'm hoping to make all that available to everyone at some point, as long as I can, get the game to make money through the cosmetic stuff. Like I'd love to have all gameplay be accessible to everyone. Like that would be great. I just feel like, yeah, kind of like I was saying, the advantages of free to play stuff is like let everyone play the game, but give them some little extra bonuses. Some shiny cool skins and stuff if they actually pay. But yeah, and anytime I prevent people from actually playing something, whether it's a particular play mode or editing a playlist or something, I feel like that kind of goes against that philosophy. But I made top winner for the poll. Um, yeah, I'd probably rather you revert it for now, just because I'd prefer to simplify main menus if possible. I feel like there's already too many buttons. So if you don't mind, I'd prefer not to have that there for now. We can revisit that later. Like the squads mode will probably have a completely different main menu. So, maybe it would make sense to have like a Discord button there or something. Maybe it would be like in the corner, or, something where it looks a little bit different, where it's like, you can tell like, oh, this is for how to, I don't know, meet people that play the game or something. But for now, yeah, I'd rather if you hold off tweaking the main menu for now, if we can just keep it to the gather, for the time being. Just I want to assign an action button to left punch, another button to right punch. Oh, that's interesting. That would definitely require significant changes. So maybe in like Scene V2 or one of the upcoming things. But right now, like that would require we'd have to like send different commands over the network to the servers and stuff like that. So that's a change, and then all servers would have to understand those commands. So that's like changes like that are definitely kind of harder to get in there, which is why I've been doing like the Scene V2 thing, is so that we can make like new versions of gameplay that have different commands and hold different sets of data being sent to the server and back, and we can make those changes more quickly. But then also the old stuff will continue to work. People will still be able to connect to the classic servers without them breaking and stuff. The classic server won't be getting like a right punch command, and it's like, I don't know what this is. Like server dead. I guess that's totally an completely independent or question of like whether that's a good idea or not, is having two buttons for punch. That could maybe be like a custom game or something where it's just like if it's a boxing game, that uses Bomb Squad characters and physics, like that could be cool. I'd love to make that possible, I should say. Like, I don't know if it would be a good gameplay choice for the regular game. I kind of feel like, I'm trying to keep the regular gameplay to where you can play it with, a D-pad and 4 buttons, to where, there's lots of controllers out there where there's lots more than 4 buttons, but I don't want to make any of that necessary, Like, I feel like the standard, your standard gamepad, well, this is even way more than 4 buttons. But, the standard gamepad of D-pad and these 4 diamond buttons, like that should be, anyone who has that in some form should be able to play. So I'd be definitely hesitant to add anything that would require more than that, if that makes sense. Possible to make spinning platform using terrain node? Not at the moment. This is something that I'd love to add. This goes back to the idea of destructible terrain that I was talking about earlier. And I've held off on stuff like that because I would really want to tie it in with client prediction. This is kind of for technical reasons. For it to work well, yeah, it would kind of like the physics system needs to be a little bit smarter. Otherwise, I feel like right now it would break a lot of things. Like your character would be jumping, snapping back, which already happens a decent amount, but like that would be kind of worse. So yeah, client prediction, or there's a few things. I think it will be possible in like Scene V2, like some of the stuff coming up, or even just with like motion streaming, which is also on the radar for Scene V2. So that is definitely, I want to support stuff like that, but yeah, right now it's not really. You can hack things like moving terrain around and stuff, I think, right now, but spinning it, I think, is not currently possible. And yes, client prediction. The great white whale that I've been talking about forever. Oh yeah, soccer game, or even in soccer. It'd be cool to like have a kick, change punch to just kick. But yeah, that is. I did want to make it kind of controllable. Like if your character is turning, he will always punch from like the outside fist. So that's something hopefully people can learn to use a little bit. It's like if you're turning left and you press punch, like he should punch like with that fist. If you're turning right and you press punch, he should punch with that fist. So you kind of can control it in that way. At least that was the intention. I don't know if people actually like do that. But most of the time, if you're running straight, it's a little bit kind of random. Oh, that's not a baby question. That's a good question. Pull request that includes textures. Probably not at this point. Like, if you want to tweak some textures, you'll just have to send those to me because there's. I have this system where if you'll notice like the public Ballistica repo, when you're building the game, it like downloads all the textures. Like the textures are not actually in the GitHub repo. And that is largely because like I have a really nasty convoluted like makefile system for building textures and stuff that requires like a bunch of command line tools be installed. And I didn't want to try to make people wrangle that on GitHub, or if people are building the game themselves, I didn't want people to have to like put all that together in order to build textures. So basically when I do a sync between like my own repo, like my private repo, and like the public GitHub repo, it basically bakes all the textures out, puts them on a server, and then like embeds links to those in the public repo. So if you want to replace or tweak a texture, you just have to send it to me. I can put it in my private repo and then push it out to the public, if that makes sense. So if you have like an improvement or something, definitely ping me about it, and I'm happy to do that. It just like for that I have to do that part manually. At some point, I do plan to get rid of all my private repo textures and do everything through asset packs, and at that point, it should be easier for people to kind of make their own versions of asset packs, or hopefully do things the same way that I'm doing them. We won't have this weird like public-private system anymore. Yeah, yeah, largely like my focused goal right now is getting squads mode in there and getting squads mode to basically contain you know the fun stuff from classic mode. Classic. I call it classic mode. Like everything you see right now. Yeah, like this menu and everything you can reach from this menu is. I'll probably at some point put some cool like classic text here, just to show that this is classic mode. Um, so I don't have any huge plans to change this stuff significantly. My plans are basically to keep all this stuff working, fix bugs, keep it all working. We can do little bits of polish here and there, but any like major improvements to the game will be through squads mode. That's the plan. So at some point, squads mode, we should have some sort of like campaigns you can make in squads mode. The difference will be is that most of that stuff will, allow you to easily play, campaigns with friends online, stuff like that, So it's like I want to do any like forward stuff with squads mode. So that's when squads mode is working, then we'll start to see like expansion of stuff. But for right now, all the classic mode stuff is largely in like, maintenance mode, just trying to keep it working and not breaking too much, if that makes sense. Oh, okay. Yeah, if you want to send a texture or something like that, I could. If you have like small textures, I can certainly add some small textures to the game. Oh, this actually brings up add a version of swipe mode. Yeah, we talked about this recently, and this is something I was thinking of. It could be a fun little few week mini project, is to kind of one of the things I want to do is take the old Bomb Squad remote app and rework that to use the Ballistica engine so that basically it could share code with like the on-screen controls. Um, and as part of that, it would be fun to just like make that stuff maybe moddable or add some more options, stuff like this, like a version of swipe mode which is fixed and visible. Um, so yeah, I thought like that could be a fun little few week diversion. So I'm considering maybe trying to do that maybe sometime in the upcoming weeks. Um, Also, like the iOS version of the remote app is super out of date. Like the last one I submitted got rejected for technical reasons like 4 years ago, and I haven't updated it. So it's still like if you have an iPhone, it'll show up in like a crappy little window in the middle of your phone, stuff like that. So I'd really like to get that kind of updated. Also, there's some cool new tech that we could incorporate too, both on Android and on iOS. They have these little libraries where you can just kind of connect to local devices automatically over like Bluetooth or things like that. I think it'll use like Wi-Fi directly if it's available, or Bluetooth or whatever. So I feel like that could be super useful for like the remote app. Even though it would be a little bit limiting, like an Android phone would only be able to use it to connect to another Android phone, or same with Apple stuff. It would still be probably useful to have. Because if you got like four people sitting around with Android phones, then you could all play a game like you wouldn't even need a Wi-Fi network, And it would probably be less laggy because it would be like directly between the phones. So that could be useful, for both. If I wire that up into the Ballistica engine itself, then that could be used both for like gameplay, but then also for like the remote app. You could basically, the remote app would be talking directly to your phone, or directly, like if you have a tablet, you got four people with remotes, like they could all be talking directly to each other. So it might be like a better experience. So anyway, yeah, the remote on-screen controls, all that, like that would be a fun little side quest. So I'm considering spending a few weeks on that stuff once I get all these bug fixes done. About the textures, I don't mind it. Love the goopy. Yeah, I do plan to keep like the plasticine clay look. Like I feel like that's kind of like Bomb Squad's signature. And some people have made stuff with different styles, and that's totally cool. But still that kind of goes back into the moderation thing. Like if we get squads mode to a point where I can like pick stuff, or pick mini games that people have written or maps or whatever, I would probably limit it to ones The by default it would probably be ones that like fit with that style. Kind of like the handmade, build something on your desk kind of style. So that would be kind of something I'd want to moderate a little bit. But also, letting people do crazy other sci-fi, hand drawn, whatever styles, if they want. It would just be kind of like that stuff would maybe be in a separate section or something, like the crazy experimental section. So yeah, it'd be interesting to. That makes you wonder, like, would Lego be down for a tie-in if the game ever got like real big? Would like Lego be open to like making some Lego maps or something? I'd have to contact them. But in general, yeah, I mean, I've talked about this before too. Is it'd be super awesome to make it easier to scan stuff. I'm hoping that'll be something that becomes possible. Is build something on your desk and just like wave your phone over it, or do something where you can like get that into a map or make a map out of that like much easier than it is right now. Like right now, it's like you gotta be pretty decent at like 3D modeling and Photoshop and all this stuff to kind of put together a map that looks good. And some people have done really good jobs, but it's hard to do. Any Easter eggs? Probably. I can't tell you if there are. Uh, I'm trying to think. At this point, some of the code is so old, or it's like I haven't touched a lot of the code in a while. Like it would probably be like surprise me to find them. Be like, oh, I forgot about this. Well, I feel like walking on the Lego. If you made a Legos map, you'd probably the collision mesh for it would be flat. Like you wouldn't actually like model. I feel like that would mess with the physics engine if all the little Lego bumps were part of it. So you'd have to like the collision mesh would just be flat, but you could. That's kind of why there's like a separate collision mesh and a display mesh. Is like the display mesh is supposed to look pretty and have all the details. The collision mesh is, uh, you know, just supposed to behave well. So it often is like kind of simplified. Which on a side note, that makes me one thing I'm kind of excited about is experimenting maybe with like another physics engine too. Like I'll keep Bomb Squad's. It's using Open Dynamics engine, which is like this super old rigid body system from that hasn't been touched in like 10 years. But I love it because I know how it works inside and out. So it like even though it's not the shiniest fanciest thing, I'll keep it in there for classic mode and probably Scene V2 and stuff like that still, but it'd be also fun to play with like some of the newer stuff. Like there's this like Jolt physics, like some open source physics engines that are like up to date and theoretically faster and better and whatever. So that could be fun to play with too. For right forearm from a character and left from another character, you'd probably have to tweak the C++ layer to do that. So if you wanted to make, like a single player game where you're doing that, you could do it. But I think right now, I'd have to check. I think the spaz node, I think it has entries for like upper arm, lower arm. I don't think it has separate ones. So I think like whenever you plug a model in for like the upper arm, it'll use that for both sides. So we would have to tweak that to have like different ones for different sides, I think. It's been a while since I've been in there, but I think that's the case. Change the physics engine, wouldn't be able to do tricks anymore. No, this just means for like changing the physics engine it would be a big change. It would probably be for like, Scene V2 or something. Like so spaz would have to be rewritten a bit and like retuned. Any stuff like that. You'd still be able to do tricks. I mean, if I ever did incorporate a new physics engine, I would want to do it in a very generalized way. Like I want it to be possible to do like more physics craziness than it is now. Like people have to really like abuse the system right now. Like the few controls that are in there, it'd be great to have like smarter, better, more open-ended controls. And so I'm hoping like Scene V2 will be like that, where it's like you can do, people are asking for simple things like I want to rotate something, and I'm like, oh, you can't do that, sorry. So I'd love to make like goofy physics mini games that are completely unrelated to like Bomb Squad gameplay, and so like I want to make it possible to do that. Is what I'm saying. And the Doom Shroom. Sometimes the collisions are a little weird, like on certain spots, so like that stuff could be improved. I mean, I feel like the physics could be improved in general, so it's like that's another reason why I'd love to. Again, this is pie in the sky. Like this is not stuff I'm working on immediately now, but in the future, and I have no plans to stop working on the game. I mean, this is like my career. This is like I love doing this stuff, and I can't see doing anything else. So I want to keep working on it and keep adding new things. And a lot of this like kind of foundational work is trying to generalize things so that I can keep working on it, so that I can like completely revamp the physics without breaking the existing physics and stuff. That's why there's all these feature set systems and stuff like that to kind of keep things separate. It's like little cartridges I can plug in and unplug and reshuffle. Kick AFK players after 5 minutes enabled in official team servers. If you want to submit like a PR, like I mean, that wouldn't be too hard, I don't think, to code. But again, like that's all classic mode stuff. I don't plan on making too many changes to that. But if you want to get something in there that's like an official server option to like kick idle players after 5 minutes, I'd be happy to take a look. Do you have other projects? No. I mean, basically the Ballistica stuff, like kind of the generic kind of engine is my project. There's stuff I'd love to do with it that is a little bit different than Bomb Squad, but I'm not, like other mini games. Like, what if there was mini games where you control a sphere instead of a character? Who knows? But I want to make that all possible through the same engine. So that's why it's all the same, Ballistica thing that I'm working on. So any other ideas that I have would be, accomplished through that same thing. So that's kind of where all my eggs are in one basket, so to speak. And I think there's a lot of upsides to that. Like I was saying, that's also the reason that, I didn't like fork off Bomb Squad into like Bomb Squad 1 and Bomb Squad 2 is because then I'd have two things to maintain. I'd rather just have like one thing that I can keep polished and keep it running, and, then I don't have to worry about like 5 different APKs to update for 5 different games or something on the App Store. And, if some APK becomes outdated, I don't have to like go back and try to get it compiling again after 8 years, just like maintenance stuff like that. I'd rather just have like one thing that I'm working on. So that's kind of like why, even though it's technically just Bomb Squad, it's like the Ballistica project is kind of like my one thing, if that makes sense. Or does that setting already exist? Going back to kick after 5 minutes, that sounds familiar, but I'm not sure. Well, there's kick idle players. Is that on for servers? That was like a long time ago for like local play. I don't know if that applies to servers. Maybe it does. Yeah, that's one of those things where this is like ancient code. I'd have to look and see like when is that on? Like if you're just running the headless server version, is that enabled? I don't know. Well, we'll see. For new versions of the physics, I mean, again, like I'd love to like revamp Spaz at some point, come up with like almost a from scratch, physics dude kind of thing. Like maybe it would have a different name than Spaz, just to like set them apart or whatever. But I do want the game to kind of evolve, and we'll see what happens. Like maybe the new character would just like feel totally different, hopefully in a better way. We'll see. But maybe not. I mean, classic Spaz will probably be around for quite some time, along with Bomb Jump and everything else that's possible. But yeah, that goes back to like kind of wanting to separate things out into feature sets and stuff. Is like any physics tweaks or any changes to like Spaz, they have like such far-reaching connotations. It would like potentially break some campaign modes or play modes or tricks or whatever. So it's like I would rather just make a version 2 of Spaz that behaves a little differently, and we could optionally be used in upcoming games while leaving like old Spaz as he is. But yeah, right now I would agree that some like flat mode stuff does seem a bit more easy to control sometimes. Like some hills, like it kind of feels like it's not 100% predictable, like how Spaz will like navigate the bumps and stuff. Like sometimes it feels like he just like slows down in annoying ways. So I'd love to make something that didn't feel that way. I'd love to make like maps with hills and stuff feel just as like fun and predictable as flat maps, you know. See how the concept art of Bomb Squad. That would be fun. I mean, right now there's the closest thing there is files.ballistica.net, which you can get to this from various places, but there's just this big promo section with a bunch of old Bomb Squad stuff. It is completely not organized. But yeah, just random things here. Like, what is this? Oh, this is me and Maya with the original Spaz setup. So yeah, at some point it'd be fun to kind of organize this onto like a proper website where you can like go through it and see stuff. But yeah, it just isn't something I've had time for. Maybe I'll make a push for that. Like, that's kind of my plan is for, 2.0 is going to be like this big relaunch. So maybe it would be a good time to like set up a proper website talking about the game and its history and stuff like that at that point. So yeah, Spaz T-pose. So yeah, lots of things that'd be fun to improve in the future, which is kind of why I don't have any plans to do anything besides keep working on the game and keep improving it. And I'm always trying to explain like to my family is like, are you still working on that game? Are you done yet? And I'm always trying to explain that it's less like building, like making a movie or something where it's like you make the movie and then it's done and unless you're George Lucas and you tweak it for 20 years, but most of the time you make a movie and then you're done with the movie and you show people the movie and like that's that. But I'm trying to explain it's less like a movie and more like a theme park or like a shop or something where it's like it's less about just like getting it done. It's more about just like keeping it running. And like Disneyland is never done. It's not like people just go to Disneyland and then they close it down and that's the end of it. It's like no, they're constantly adding new things and removing things and hiring people to empty the trash and there's a lot that goes into like keeping Disneyland working. So that's kind of how I explain with kind of Bomb Squad and Ballistica and all that. It's more like running a theme park. Oh, the heal power-ups to green. This was yeah, it got pointed out, which I knew but I didn't acknowledge. It got pointed out that technically games are not supposed to have red crosses in them because it's technically a copyright of the International Red Cross with like the medical group or whatever, and it's technically the Geneva Convention says you're not supposed to use that for you're not supposed to use the Red Cross for things that are not actually representing medical things on the battlefield and stuff. So I was violating the Geneva Convention by having a Red Cross in there. I mean, tons of games do that. Tons of games have done it, but I heard that there were actually a few games that got sued by like the Red Cross, probably like high profile games, but still it seems like a good I still kind of prefer red over green, but it just it seems like the right thing to do to follow international law and stuff. I was wondering like purple cross or something, but that's not like purple to me. That seems like magic or something. I don't know. But everyone knows like red is health. It's like blue is mana, red is health. So it's like Red Cross. So yeah, but now that's like since we've discussed it so much, I feel like if I did change it back to red, then the Red Cross sued me. They'd have all these discussions to use in the court case, so they could sue me for billions of dollars. Hopefully that wouldn't happen, but I kind of feel like now that it's out in the open, I can't claim ignorance. That could be a mod though, yeah. If people want to like mod the game and bring the Red Cross back, but then if you get sued by the the International Red Cross, I'm not gonna come to your help. But yeah, it's one of those things where like it's been changed for a while now. I'm curious if people are getting used to it or if it still annoys people. Like it's still like slightly as jarring to me. It's like, ew, that's not cool. I'm hoping to get used to it eventually, but still like green cross to me, it's like it's not as clear as Red Cross. Okay. Yeah, just casually violating Geneva Conventions. Been there, done that. All right, I probably should go too. Actually, we're pretty close to 2 hours, but it's been a fun little chill time here, seeing some cool stuff and chatting about game concepts and this and that. Are there any last questions that I totally missed? If you want to like point me at them or something. Last questions, thoughts, etc. Otherwise, I will, like I said, go into bug squashing mode. I'm gonna just try to, yeah. If you're running into like an Android version dying on you, if you can send me any logs from that, possibly, I will try to get the Android version polished up and try to take a look at Windows 11 crashing for some people, and yeah, tons of stuff. Like I feel like this is a good point to just like buckle down and try to fix bugs. So I'll be in bug fix mode for a little while. Aw, aw, thank you. I love, aw, I love when people say nice things about the game, and like people send me messages that like, oh, I've been playing this. I get some from like parents who said like, oh, this. Yeah, there's one that's like, oh, this brought me closer to my 15-year-old daughter who we'd been growing apart, but we started playing this game together, and now like thank you. It's like, oh man, it's like that stuff is super inspiring too in terms of just like making me want to keep working on the game. It's just like hearing stories like that. It's so heartwarming. Spaz asset free to use. If you want to use Spaz for something, I mean, ping me. Like technically the assets are copyrighted and whatnot, but I'm open to giving permission for using them for various purposes. The code is all like legally open source, so I can't stop you from doing like anything you want with the code. And that should be covered on the website. But yeah, the assets are different. Yeah, assets are still under copyright and whatever. So don't like distribute your own full copy of Bomb Squad without talking to me. Is basically the gist of it. But again, I'm open to granting permission to use Spaz for some fun little projects or something like that. So I'm not trying to like be super stickler for stuff. Um, it says gullible on the ceiling. I've always heard like, did you know gullible is not in the dictionary? You get people to like look that up. All right. Well, it looks like hopefully I didn't miss anything important. Last call for any last stuff I missed, but otherwise it'll be back to squishing the bugs. Aw, well, thank you. I mean, I know I take plenty of time for updates. I do feel bad making people wait, and like I said, I do feel a little guilty talking about like future improvements and things that are still a ways off, because it's like I'm on one hand I'm super excited to add them, but on the other hand it's like being realistic. Like some of that stuff will not be in there for quite a while, if it's ever in there. Hopefully it will be, but it's still fun to talk about. And I really like things like 2.0. I really do want to get to that sooner rather than later. And like I said, there's also financial pressure too. Like I'm spinning up all these servers, which is super fun and cool, but it's like I got to pay for them too. So it's a bit of pressure to like get monetization reworked and things like that. So, but I think some pressure like that is healthy. I think it's good to have a little bit of something keeping you to deadlines. So, and that could be challenging as like a indie developer, is like keeping yourself like on schedule or moving forward. All right. What time is it now? Here in California, it's 11 a.m. So it's pretty early. Hopefully this time works well for people. I apologize to anyone who it's like 2 in the morning or anything like that, but this seems to work decently well for like me doing this kind of first thing in the morning, and then it covers most of the world. Like if you're in Japan or something, it's probably like the middle of the night, but sorry. So hopefully it works decently for people though. And there's also the YouTube video you can catch up tomorrow. All right, well, it's been fun chatting with you all as always. Thanks for taking an interest in this silly little game and this fun little journey we're all doing together, making cool, tinkering with cool stuff. So, all right, well, I'll see you folks next time. So peace out, everyone.